Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now, in this episode, you may notice, wait, another Thoughts On? Isn't it a bit early for another one of those? Well, it would be, but given the video that's going to come up this Thursday, this topic just kind of felt like it was relevant. Especially considering this group of people have been steadily rising, not necessarily in good ways or bad ways, depending on your view of them. But of course, we'll get into what I think of them in a bit. Before that, let's get right into the news. First, we're going to give a little bit of an update on Honduras. Honduras has been getting a lot of issues, for those who don't remember. Last week, I talked about how the Libre caucus essentially broke in half because some of the members wanted to basically followed what Xiomara or Castro said, and the other group basically said, no, we're not going to do that. And that led to them being expelled, and that led to the dissident faction to be expelled from the party. Now, you may say, did this issue get resolved? Well, no, it did not get resolved at all. In fact, right before the inauguration of the president, Xiomara Castro, the two factions of Congress literally decided to hold two separate legislative sessions, and many people thought that this might have led to something happening on the day of her inauguration. But Xiomara Castro's inauguration did pretty much go off without a hitch, and she basically reformed one of her platforms. I think, I remember, when she ran for president, she said that she was going to, remove Taiwan from their, they were no longer going to recognize Taiwan, and they were instead going to recognize China. But now, since the Taiwanese president went to her inauguration, alongside a bunch of other people like Kamala Harris, a delegation from Venezuela, basically she's went back on that. Maybe it's because of the pressure of this new growing right-wing faction within the Congress. We'll have to wait and see if Xiomara is going to be Pedro Castillo or not. Next, some relatively smaller stories, I guess. Relevant, but smaller. First, Cori Bush's vehicle got hit by gunfire in St. Louis area. Cori Bush, for those who don't know, I would assume that you do know, DSA member, squad member, blah, blah, blah. She, literally, that title basically explains everything. Her car was in an area, and it got shot at. She did not get injured because she was not in the car at the time, and I don't know if it was confirmed whether or not that this was a targeted attack, or if this was just a random act of violence. Maybe they didn't even know that it was Cori Bush's car. Either is very possible. There was this weird conservative backlash, you see, now this will prove that defund the police doesn't work. And it's okay. They literally flat out said, members of Congress should feel threatened and should be victims, and it's that's a bit sus, especially when you're talking about a prominent black congresswoman. But at the end of the day, Bush is safe. Not the bad Bush, but the good Bush. She's safe, and hopefully this doesn't deter her from fighting. The next story is the never-ending updates of members of Congress resigning. A member of Congress by the name of Jim Cooper has announced that he will be leaving Congress. Now you might say, why him? Well, the way Tennessee, yes, he's in Tennessee. He was one of the blue dogs in Tennessee, as in, I think he actually was the only blue dog in Tennessee. I think he was the only D in Tennessee at all. But basically, due to the fact that Republicans control the entire state, he's essentially being drawn out of existence. There might be an opportunity for Odessa Kelly, the Justice Democrat candidate, to maybe do something. Maybe she'll be able to pull through some election path. Maybe they'll draw her into a different district, and then she has a path there, and I don't know. I don't know the specifics. All I know is Jim Cooper's out, and Odessa Kelly technically got her wish. He's no longer going to be a member of Congress. So, the next story is one that the story, like the headline, isn't the important part. The headline says, Schumer's path to re-election paved with campaign cash and statewide stops. You know, basically it's a thing to say like, oh, Chuck Schumer's running for blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever, nobody cared. But what was the real story was a couple of paragraphs in. For those who don't know, there are many people who were speculating that AOC might run a bid in this Senate seat as a Don Quixote run to maybe try and pull another AOC win. Well, here's what happened. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been floated as a Schumer challenger, but her spokeswoman told NY1 she has filed for re-election and is ruling out seeking his seat. Basically, the two dream team was ended. You know, the other one was Ro Khanna running in California. You know, like, oh, maybe he could win the open seat, but he basically ruled that out as well. And I think it makes sense because of like the closeness of the Senate. Then there's an unlikely chance we're going to be seeing a lot of high profile like primaries outside of open seats. Like, I mean, again, we've seen like there's John K. Fetterman, Mandela Barnes, Lucas Coons. They're running pretty high profile bids, but they're not running like in like seats that are Democrat held. They're running in open seats that are technically held by Republicans. So there's like more favorability to try and flip those seats. We're not going to be seeing that many intra-party fights in the Senate, I don't think, for now. Because like the Democrats basically try to solidify their slate again. Speaking of solidifying a state, this is one that's interesting. Mark Walker. Remember him? He is a Republican that's running for the Senate seat here in North Carolina. Well, there's been a lot of will they, won't they about his run, because he was one of the earliest, he was literally the first candidate to announce that he would be running for the seat. But then Jeff Jackson, Erica Smith, Cherry Beasley, Ted Budd, Pat McCrory, like a bunch of more high-profile candidates entered the scene, and Mark Walker kind of faded into the dust, especially in his own party's primary, because his party's primary technically seemed like the way it's being divided now is that it seems to be like the anti-Trump Republicans are all backing McCrory, and the pro-Trump Republicans, like the super conservative pro-Trumpers, are going to back Ted Budd. And Mark Walker, he sort of represented like the old school Tea Party person, but he clearly wanted to be like also like the pro-Trumpster guy. But then Ted Budd got that endorsement, so Mark Walker kind of got left in the dust. Now, many people were speculating that maybe Trump basically tried to work his magic to make sure Walker would leave, so that it would be a Budd versus McCrory race. Much like how the Democrats basically pushed everyone else out of the seats so that they could make way for Cherry Beasley. Well, Walker has infinitely more backbone than Erica Smith, Richard L. Watkins, and Jeff Jackson, because Walker has decided that he's going to stay in the race and continue to push forward to try and actually win the nomination. As commendable as that is, Ted Budd immediately used that as a point of attack, saying, "Isn't it weird how you were the first candidate running, and yet now you announcing that you're still in the race is a news story? Like, there are no mistakes about it. Ted Budd's in the race. There's no mistakes about McCrory being in the race, or Beasley. But Walker has just kind of faded into obscurity in his own party's primary. Maybe there's a conspiracy theory going around here. Maybe Walker and McCrory have teamed up to try and take down Budd and are trying to use Walker as a spoiler. I guess we'll never know." Speaking of something that we don't know, well, we're gonna find out whatever this is pretty soon. Apparently, something interesting happened during the Office of Congressional Ethics. They recently put 2 members of Congress on, like, not on trial. They're basically doing an investigation, but they're looking into 2 members of Congress. I'm not going to cover the Republican one because I don't care. Like, it's like, oh, Republican does something shady, who cares? But this one is not only a Democrat that is doing this, but it is a progressive Democrat that did this. Apparently, there is an investigation going on about the potential that Marie Newman of Illinois potentially have bribed her primary opponent to stay out of the race in exchange for a job in her office. So apparently, here's what happened. There was a person by the name of Lyman Chihade who was going to run in the Illinois 3rd Congressional District race in 2020. He's currently running for that seat in 2022 as well. But basically, he wanted to run in the seat in 2020, and he was going to run as like a progressive candidate. However, Marie Newman was already wanting to run as the progressive candidate because she was well known and ran in 2018. And she decided, like according to what the investigation says, she gave him the opportunity to be a member of her office and be like a top foreign policy advisor in exchange for him not to seek the office. Now, Marie Newman goes on to say that she does not believe, she says that this isn't the case. She offered him the job because she felt that he was the most qualified for the job. She was lackluster on foreign policy, so she went to him as a foreign policy expert to be part of her office and be part of her campaign. Though reportedly in a 2018 email, Chihade said that he will not announce or submit his candidacy for that district in exchange to be hired as Newman's chief foreign policy advisor. This is the thing. And there's also another allegation because Newman is stating that the people who filed this thing are of a right-wing bias. That they are like, oh, we're right-wingers, so they're bad. They're trying to purposely do this to try and hurt me. Which could be the case. I don't know. That's what the investigation is going to find out. This is big for a number of reasons. One of the biggest ones being that Newman's seat is actually going to be really close. Her candidacy is she's going to be running against another incumbent congressperson. And that incumbent congressperson is like way to her right. So there's a lot of trouble in regards to whether or not her candidacy will be viable. And they reportedly said that they will not be going negative on the campaign ads. But if this turns out to be way bigger than it is, then Caston might have to not follow through with that. I gotta wait till the full investigation's out to see whether or not I can unendorse Newman. But even then, this does kind of make it go this is a bit sus. Keep your eye on Marie. Okay, so the last news story is talking about something that just happened. Stephen Breyer announced that he will be retiring from the Supreme Court at some point in the future. But don't worry, that some point will be this year. Because he announced that he will be retiring I think it'll be sometime in the summer, I believe. Because it's going to be before the next session of the court. And that's led to a lot of people to go, ooh, what could happen here? And we're basically looking into it and seeing that basically, since the court's going to go over a lot of big profile cases, and it's we have the constant fear of Roe v. Wade, the conservative bend of the Supreme Court, and all this jazz, there's a lot of things that people are thinking about in regards to the court. Court expansion has been brought back into discourse. People are wondering who's going to vote for her because Dianne Feinstein is stating, oh, there's no rush to confirm Breyer's appointment, indicating that this could be a long time. But it's guys, you don't have a long time. The Congress is about to change literally in a couple of months. They're going to vote on new members of Congress. People are wondering, oh, what is going to be the flippable votes? Will it be, how will the votes pan out? People are back to the 4 people. Will Murkowski and Collins flip to go support the Democrat nominee? Or worse, will Sinema and Manchin flip to the Republican side and say that they will not vote for the Democrats' Supreme Court nominee? I wanted to say that there was an indication that maybe Manchin would vote for the Supreme Court nominee, but then I found out, oh wait, Manchin has literally never voted for a Democratic Supreme Court nominee because when the Democrats controlled both chambers of Congress and were appointing Supreme Court nominees, Manchin was not a member of Congress. He was the governor of West Virginia. We don't really know about that. But what many people are concerned about is who is going to be the next SCOTUS nominee? Who's going to be the next member of the Supreme Court? Biden brought something up in particular, basically agreeing that he would appoint a black woman to the Supreme Court. In fact, that was literally the thing that saved his candidacy, because apparently that is what caused Jim Clyburn to endorse him. He said, like, publicly promised to appoint a black woman to the Supreme Court, I'll endorse you. Biden did it, and lo and behold, he's the president now. So now, when people are saying, are you going to keep your promise? Biden says, of course, yeah, this one I'm going to keep. Now this begs the question, who will he appoint? There have been a lot of names floated around, some names more unrealistic than others, like Cherry Beasley and Kamala Harris. There's no way either of them are going to get appointed, but I'd love for him to appoint Cherry Beasley just so he could screw with the North Carolina Senate race even more so. But the two most likely candidates, and when I say the two most likely candidates, I mean the obvious one and the one that might slip in. Okay, so basically the one that might slip in is Leandra Kruger. Leandra Kruger, the only reason that I believe that she could potentially be a Supreme Court nominee is because of one thing. She's Jewish. She's black, yes, but she's also Jewish. And you might say, why does that matter? Well, the seat that is up for grabs, the Breyer seat, has historically been classified as the Jewish seat of the court. In fact, literally, I think only one member since like the 1900s on that seat has not been Jewish, and everyone else has been Jewish who's been on the seat. So that Ada poll might allow him to slip Kruger in. But the most likely person to be in the seat is Ketanji Brown Jackson. So much so that literally the second that Breyer retired, I said, Ketanji Brown Jackson, hear me now, quote me later. She's going to be the next SCOTUS nominee. And everyone's like, yeah, pretty much. Like, everybody who's politically active and that kind of level understands it's pretty much going to be her. Why? Because she was one of the top people to be appointed for an Obama seat. She was always floated as a potential person to get, like, Kagan's seat, Sotomayor's seat, and the seat that was supposed to go to Garland. Biden even recently elevated her position on the court that she's on right now. So it's very likely that she's going to be the Supreme Court nominee. Now, here's the thing. Many people are saying, is she good? And it's like, I mean, she's average. She's like an average liberal type Democrat. She's not like a progressive, I don't think. But she's not bad. Kruger's like openly been like, oh, I'm the moderate candidate. But Ketanji Brown Jackson's sort of like been a stereotypical like liberal Democrat. And I'm talking about like in the somewhat FDR type way, like in the JFK type way. Like, oh yeah, there's some progressive reforms that she'll vote for. There's some that she won't vote for. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's probably what you're going to get. And that's probably the best you're going to get. It's not like Biden's going to put like Keith Ellison to the court or something. Now that we got all that out of the way, let's move on to the main topic of this video. Now, again, you may be wondering, why am I talking about this group in particular? Well, it's literally just because the video that's going to come up on Thursday is a video talking about Judas and the Black Messiah. And I figured it would make sense to do a thoughts on this group the same week that I do a video on another thing related to another person that I will get to in a second. Because if you know this group already, you already know. If you don't, you'll find out in like 10 seconds or something. So, who am I talking about? The group I am talking about is, of course, Revolutionary Blackout Network, formerly known as the Fred Hampton Leftists. And when I say this is a thoughts on them, what I really mean is this is a thoughts on some of the members of the Fred Hampton Leftists, because there are 6 listed members on their Twitter bio. I believe at one point they claimed to have more, or like there was more people that were affiliated with them, but some just are more well-known or more egregious than others. But first, what's the Revolutionary Blackout Network? Well, according to their Twitter banner, they are a black-led, multicultural network and co-op of everyday people, activists, and allies, focused on empowering our communities through education, organizing, and direct action. And that their goal is trying to black out corporate media. Get it? Now, on the surface, that's not bad. A group of, like, moderately big to small members of left Twitter that were black, that were trying to spread a message, that were trying to push for ideas and push agenda platforms that they were in favor of. That's not a bad idea. But early on, there was one thing about them that was kind of a bad idea, especially in retrospect. The idea, like, what the group, like, as I stated, the group was not always called the Revolutionary Blackout Network. The group was originally called the Fred Hampton Leftists. For those who don't know, Fred Hampton is a prominent member of the Black Panther Party, particularly the leader of the Illinois branch, who did a lot of things. He organized the first Rainbow Coalition. That was basically a group of, like, white progressives, Latino progressives, progressives of all branches, socialists of all colors and shades, to fight against, like, the establishment of Illinois. Now, I didn't know much about them, so I basically just paid them no mind. Like, oh, yeah, they're people who want to associate themselves with, like, Fred Hampton and, like, educate people about Fred Hampton and try to translate his ideology to today. Cool. But one problem that many people seem to start getting at was basically just revolving around the name, Fred Hampton Leftists. Because when you base your entire ideology on one person, if you don't follow that to the degree that other people think you should, then that might look bad for you. I remember, like, Fiorella Isabel and Yo Pasta of the Combo Couch were literally just flat out saying that Fred Hampton did things that he didn't do. Like, saying, like, oh, Fred Hampton literally teamed up with white supremacists. And it's like, he didn't. The Young Patriots were not white supremacists. I don't remember if the Fred Hampton Leftists got involved in that, or if they were interviewing the Fred Hampton Leftists and that's what caused this. I don't remember. I was gonna originally say that these guys were involved with it, but I don't remember, so I can't necessarily verify that to be the case. And this all went on until essentially one day it just had to stop. When Fred Hampton Jr., Fred Hampton's only son, said this of the Fred Hampton Leftists.
Let me say this: there are so many people unauthorized or bogusly utilizing the name of of the chairman, our name. You know what I'm saying? We in the process of heightening and dealing with these contradictions. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, be black when it's beneficial, play Panther when it's profitable, when Cubs when it's comfortable. Know that to answer your question, the rock. Know that it's not sanctioned. You know what I'm saying? No, cut straight to the chase.
And the thing was, the Fred Hampton Leftists got a little mad at that. Like, a lot of them, like, were saying a lot of things that were contradictory. Like, especially, they were saying things that were, like, really contradictory. Like, on one end, they'd say, we did get Fred Hampton Jr.'s permission to use the Fred Hampton name for Fred Hampton Leftists. And then you say, but then what about this thing where he says that it's unsanctioned? And there were other people who were rushing to their defense, and they were retweeting and stuff saying, like, oh, I don't care what, like, these shit libs say. And it's like, you're calling Fred Hampton Jr. a shit lib, really? And I think I tweeted this when it happened, but I said, like, Fred Hampton Jr. is literally the only other person, aside from Fred Hampton, who can get mad at you using the name Fred Hampton. Because he's the only other person named Fred Hampton. Like, I mean, of course he's gonna get mad at not only using his dad's name, but it's his name too. Now, I said all this just to get this part of the way. Like, oh yeah, this happened. This is a controversy that happened. They changed their name, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Well, except for, like, the bios and, like, some of their patrons. Like, right here, I am SocialistMMA, co-founder of Fred Hampton Leftists. A thing that he makes money off of. But put a pin in that name. We'll come back to him later. Guess I'll go over all of the Fred Hampton Leftists in a sort of weird order. First, let's talk about the ones that I really have, like, zero issue with whatsoever, as far as I know of. Jossana and Jaybefaunt, who, no offense, are just there. Like if I were to make a poster of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, Jaybefaunt and Jossana would be, like, all the way at the ends. Whenever people bring up the Revolutionary Blackout Network, it's usually never those two that they seem to have a problem with. I guess I technically do have a little bit of more story and more stuff to say about Jaybefaunt, is that I was briefly in DM groups with him to, like, do something similar, but not quite as, like, this group, a different left collective group thing. But creative differences, as the typical Hollywood answer says, dictated that Jaybefaunt was better suited for Fred Hampton Leftists / Revolutionary Blackout Network. Now we get in the mid-tier of the Revolutionary Blackout Network. First on the agenda, we have SabbySabs, who, I'll be honest, until, today, I thought she was the only female on the Fred Hampton Leftists. I realize I keep saying Fred Hampton Leftists when they rebranded, but it's just I've known them as that for so long, that's just kind of how it is. Now, SabbySabs, I didn't really have a problem with, particularly. Like I said, a majority of the FHL, RBN discourse revolves around mostly 3 people, and she's just right directly under the other 3. I don't know specific drama she got into, but there's only one big thing that I actually have an issue with, and that was her interview with Cynthia McKinney. Now, originally, I just had a problem with it in general, just because she platformed Cynthia McKinney, and I made the assumption that she positively platformed Cynthia McKinney. But in preparation for this video, I was like, you know what? No, I'll be fair. Maybe she did grill her on some of the bad things she's done. Maybe she said, Cynthia McKinney, you posted this tweet that was anti-Semitic. I shame you for it. Even if we have a disagreement on this, I believe this is anti-Semitic. And I grill her for it. So I decided, you know what? I'm not going to judge. I'm going to watch it. And then I'm going to see if I was proven right or I was wrong. I was proven incredibly wrong, because this interview is way more softball than anything Nancy Pelosi has ever gotten in her career. They literally spent they spent a long time talking about jazz, and again, nothing bringing up any of the controversies Cynthia McKinney's been involved in, none of her allegations of anti-Semitism, none of the allegations of her and the Georgia Green Party being incredibly transphobic, none of the sort. Again, this is one of the most softball interviews you could have given a person. And these guys are like, oh, we're not going to be like the corporate media. We're not going to be like them. We're going to actually press the people that we bring on and stuff. It's like, okay, but you didn't. But the thing that solidified me bringing up her Cynthia McKinney interview was this.
When it comes to voters coming out in Georgia for Joe Biden, part of me thinks it was because they were promised those $2,000 checks if they put in Warnock and all stuff. They were promised these things. Do you think 2024 that Georgia goes back to Biden again, or goes back to Democrats again?
Oh, well, Georgia was stolen. I don't know about any other states, but the level of fraud, and Georgia's been that way. Like I said, I was the one that the first electronic voting machines were used against. So
Cynthia McKinney went on her show, blatantly lied, and said oh yeah, the Georgia election was stolen. And then Sab not only doesn't press her on this, but laughs along with her. And keep in mind, this is, again, the same group of people that'll be mad at Vosh for being quote-unquote a Nazi, or oh, Biden's a fascist. But then they're also going to ignore the fact that in a different interview, which I can no longer find, unfortunately, Cynthia McKinney literally spoke positively about a member of Congress who defended 2 Nazis. And I'm not saying he defended neo-Nazis or anything. No, I mean these were 2 Nazis. One worked in a concentration camp and the other was a Nazi scientist. She defended him and called him one of the greatest congressmen of all time. This is the people that they choose to worship. But oh no, you can't worship AOC, that's a bit too much. That's really it for Sab. Let's move on to the next person, one of the trinity of the Revolutionary Blackout Network. If he were to be compared to one of the DC heroes of the DC trinity, he'd be Wonder Woman. The person I'm of course talking about is UnholyRome. Now, Rome is really hated among people that I know. He's got this really big hate boner to him, and it seems to all revolve around this clip.
There's no such thing as gay women. You might not be attracted to that person, or maybe you got hurt when you was younger, and you just taking it out on all men, but deep down inside, you still need dick to survive. So I'm just letting y'all know, you claim you gay, you dress like a boy, you get your hair shaved, you a stud, whatever the fuck you want to call yourself, a dyke, I'm gonna smack the shit out of you. Stop perping and just get the D.
Pretty cringy clip, I'll say. the man says that there's no such thing as gay women. That's an inaccurate statement. Kind of homophobic. But I'll be fair to Rome. I'll actually be really fair to Rome. That clip was 5 years ago. He was an adult then, but I mean, it was still 5 years ago. Like, I mean, I could still say, like, hey, Rome, that's pretty cringy. And then he could pull up anything that I said from, like, a couple years ago and be like, yo, bro, what about this? And I'll be like, all right, fair, you got me there. We don't say cringy stuff we're not proud of. Though I guess to be fair on my end, anything that you pull up from me from 5 years ago wouldn't be when I was a child. So maybe a slightly different situation on my end. But, I mean, again, to be fair, I mean, again, I'm being fair to Rome. He said a cringy thing. Maybe he still says cringy things about, like, because he's like a communist. He works with the Fred Hampton Leftists. Other people in the network have said cringy things that are not even just cringy things, just like bad things that I'll get into. But, I mean, again, I don't know much about Rome. In fact, I actually defended him one time. In private, mostly, I think. Okay, so many people don't remember this. I mean, you might. But there was one person named Don Ford who basically tried to get Rome, and, like, Rome was caught on, like, Rome called Don Ford and said, like, he said stuff like, oh, I'm gonna cap you, or something like that. Like, people who don't stop fucking with me get, like, capped in a very violent term. Like he was mad, and, like, a bunch of people in circles that I knew were, like, jumping on this trend, like, oh, Rome is crazy, Rome is a little bit nutso. But then it was like, why is this call only halfway done? Why did he call, like, in the middle of the call? And, like, Rome seems mad about something. Like, what's he mad about? It turns out Rome's side of the argument was that Don Ford was doing something related to his kids. I think he was, like, spreading social media pages about, like, Rome with Rome's kids in it, or something along those lines, and that's what set Rome off. And I'm like, yeah, to be fair, I do the same. I was almost about to jump on the trend, just like, oh yeah, this is funny, but I'm like, wait, because I remember Don Ford was, like, legit crazy, like, he's literally, like, an insane person. So I'm like, maybe Rome's justified. And then it turns out Rome probably was completely justified. Maybe he went overboard, but it's like, what do you expect? What do you expect? Like if I walked up to Rome's kid and, like, slapped his kid, Rome has every right to, like, beat the shit out of me. It's one of those things where it's like he's completely justified in being angry. And then in DM groups that were, like, saying, like, oh yeah, this is pretty crazy of Rome to do, I was, like, standing up for Rome. I'm like, you know, Rome actually seems to kind of have a point here. I even interacted with Rome during it, where he explained the situation. I'm like, oh yeah, that's fair. You know what? Yeah, that's fair. And even, like, some people were more receptive. They're like, oh yeah, I guess that's fair. But then there were other people that were like, I don't care. I legitimately want us to destroy Rome. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there like, I don't care about destroying Rome. What is this? If the truth sides with Rome, the truth sides with Rome. And Rome's in the right. If the truth doesn't side with Rome, then he's wrong. So that's pretty much all I gotta say on Rome. Now let's move on to the only member of the Fred Hampton Leftists that I legitimately hate. And when I say legitimately hate, I mean, like, legitimately hate. As in, like, it's not like one of those, like, hates for online people. Like, oh yeah, I hate them, and then I can turn it into, like, an online rivalry. It's like, no. I have no interest in becoming, like, online rivals with this person. I have no interest in, like, making them part of the brand. I don't like them, and I just genuinely hate them. And that person is Compton Jay. Now, before we get into that, let's go into a little bit of a funny thing that happened with Compton Jay. Compton Jay was invited to the Jen Perlman show, and from this one thing that seems to be a thing that likes Compton Jay, like, this one video it says, Jen Perlman and Fred Hampton Leftist convo on reparations goes left. It seems that this was a conversation about broader ideas like electoralism, certain policies, etc., etc. And the thing was, it seemed to be going well, and then this happened.
We usually do in-depth interviews. We do authors. We talk about everything from environmental issues to health issues to all different stuff. And we talk about a lot of different manners and strategies, and it's not just all electoral. We do cover that. That is why a lot of people watch this. The majority of our platform was transferred over from my congressional campaign. So a lot of the people that watch this platform are from that. That's what they're into. But yeah, I mean,
so this should be shocking to them. This should be shocking to them hearing you say this, right? Hearing Afeni say all these things, like, because the people that you're naming, I'm not sure they're even hearing what we're saying. I'm not sure that that's the case.
The people I'm naming?
Some of the groups that you're naming, the people, those circles, like, I'm not sure they're hearing us.
What group?
The groups that you just named. You named them.
What groups did I name?
No, you're just talking about. No, Jay, I understand what you're saying.
And you just rambled off something.
No, what I'm saying is, I think that there comes a point where the entire thing just becomes useless in terms of where we're currently going. And so I totally understand where you and Afeni are coming from and the whole concept of the movement. You know, that's why we are here. We absolutely support reparations. We've actually been very vocal at it.
Please don't pander to me. Please
Jay,
pander to me right in my face. Do not do that, because
Jay, okay.
Done.
It is clear that they wanted to come here
and ambush us. And that is and I told you, and I wasn't happy about this, and this was definitely something that I was expecting.
We were trying to...
Jay just randomly decided, like, they brought up reparations. He's like, please do not pander to me right in my face. Like, it's so stupid. Like, and this is the funny thing, like, he shared this clip, like, not that long ago as, like, proof that he was in the right. It's like, this clip shows you randomly getting mad out of nowhere and crying for nothing. This is just stupid. But of course, I don't hate him for that. Why would I hate him for that? That was funny as hell. Just seeing some random guy lose his cool like that for literally no reason. That's hilarious. What I hate him for is some weird opinion. I think this was even before he was invited on the Fred Hampton Leftists. Like, this was just some random thing that he tweeted. Like, and this was about, again, this is about force the vote. Of course it is. Because these people don't know how to get a life. This is what happened. Compton Jay tweeted this out. Unpopular opinion. AOC playing the sympathy card to gain back the leftists she lost due to force the vote. People show more compassion and sympathy for AOC, a person they've never met, never had a conversation with, and never will meet in their entire life than their own family. Now, that tweet itself is just stupid. People thinking like, oh, people have more sympathy and compassion for AOC than their own family is just ridiculous fanfiction that he writes in his head. The fact that he thinks that she has to gain back support from leftists that she lost due to force the vote is ridiculous, because leftists didn't stop supporting her over force the vote because it was a stupid hashtag that literally had no bearing on anything. But you might say, what is this AOC playing sympathy card for? What's this about? He's talking about when AOC came out as a rape victim. Compton Jay literally tweeted that AOC made up her rape to get sympathy for dumb, stupid hashtag. That was strike one, you're out. Like, Compton Jay lost all respect that he could have ever had, just gone. And he's never getting it back. Like, I'm never going to respect Compton Jay ever again. Like, if someone says, hey, you want to be on the show with Compton Jay? I will refuse. I'll send this tweet to them. The fact that he's still on the Fred Hampton Leftists, literally, that kind of made the Fred Hampton Leftists make me lose interest in them. Just like the fact that this didn't immediately disqualify him. Like, people who tweet positively about Compton Jay, I immediately view as sus. Because, like, no, this is the shit that I don't want this on the left. Compton Jay should be chased off the internet and never return. I don't care. Like, I don't care if you're like, guys, listen, in behind the scenes, Jay gave me, like, a lot of confidence and stuff and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I literally don't care. Jay could give his blood to cancer patients for all I care. It doesn't matter. You're not going to wipe this away. Like, and he's trying to wipe this away. like a week later, he realized, maybe saying that a rape victim faked their rape is not a good thing. And then he deleted the tweet and gave like a fake apology, like, oh well, I understand that what I said was not very nice. It's like, dude, I screen capped it the second it happened because I knew you were gonna delete that. Because there's no way you're ever gonna live this down. Literally, whenever anybody mentions Compton Jay, it'll just be like, that's the guy who said AOC faked a rape. That is what he is to me. That is all he will ever be to me. No respect in any point whatsoever. And now on to the big man of the hour, the Cenk Uygur or Nico House of this network, Nick Cruz, also known as SocialistMMA. It seems that everything that seems to be wrong with the Fred Hampton Network or the Revolutionary Blackout Network usually revolves around SocialistMMA, because like I said, he's like the Cenk Uygur or Nico House of this network. He's the one that's at the forefront. In that hypothetical poster I mentioned before, he would be smack dab in the middle. And I might say, there's 6 people, how can he be smack dab in the middle? To which I say, it's a crappy analogy, deal with it. And this is where I'm actually going to get more into what the Fred Hampton Leftist content is. You see, it's mostly live streams, he's a streamer, but he does, mostly try to focus on, one of the big things that he keeps saying is, he wants to build a general strike. He's actually trying to build, a general strike summit. That's a thing that he keeps pushing for, he's one of those direct action guys. That's what this whole network is. They're like the direct action people. Except one of the big problems is they never actually seem to do anything about direct action. This is my biggest problem with all these direct action / anti-electoral leftists. They always say that they are anti-electoral. They always say that they're for direct action. They always say that. But when push comes to shove, they're not for that. It seems that these guys are always hyper-focused on AOC and Bernie Sanders and the squad and all these people. They're always hyper-focused on elections. They're always hyper-focused on... They do symbolic things in regards to things, like they do a general strike summit. But here's the thing, like a general strike summit. It's like, oh, that's an interesting idea. That's one of the things that further left people seem to have this big... boogeyman about, oh yeah, we're trying to push for a massive general strike and we're going to push this big thing. But here's the thing, this is the General Strike Summit. This is what they're talking about at the General Strike Summit.
That's such a great point, Jimmy, because we get this question. I know people always badger you about this. They say, why are you so focused on criticizing Bernie, AOC, and the squad? Don't you got worse people to criticize? Sabby get this a lot as well. And Jimmy just explained to you guys the concept and why we do that. And I explained this on the stream yesterday. People often get mistaken when they say Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, and Hillary Clinton are the white moderates that MLK and Malcolm X warned us about. You're mistaken because they're not moderates.
Yes.
There are extreme right-wingers. Joe Biden is a racist, Zionist, segregationist that is escalating the drug war. And there's still a lot of people have to deal with the fact that they voted for that. And they coping in a lot of different ways. You voted for Blue Trump, guys. So, the idea that you guys support this right-wing party, but you can gatekeep and tell other people if they're leftists, right? That doesn't make sense. To me, that doesn't make sense to me, right? So, what the progressives do, and once again, I brought the homelessness crisis because I want to get back to like what Jimmy said. The progressives, they give you the illusion that they're fighting the establishment. So Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, they're not the white moderate. They're the right wingers that we have to defeat. Period. So who are the white moderates? This is gonna hurt some feelings.
Here we go.
But Bernie Sanders is that guy because what the progressives do. Remember that army they mobilized to fight the homelessness crisis, and then they left. Like, we're Cori Bush on that issue. So, they killed the revolutionary action that was going towards the homelessness crisis. So, that's what they do. They siphoned revolutionary spirit, just like Jimmy Dore explained.
Sorry that I have to play a lot of the clips, in full, because I want to give them, at least the full context so I can explain. Now, for one thing, Like I said, this is a general strike thing. You're supposed to be talking about a general strike, yes? Not Bernie, not Pelosi or Manchin or Biden, and yet here you go. You're going back to the electoralism sphere. If you genuinely think that electoralism doesn't benefit you, and that it's not going to get anything, you're not going to get anything changed, here's what you do. Shut up. You shut up about it. I talk about it because I think it matters. You talk about it because it gets you money. You either are lying in thinking that it's not important, or you are telling the truth, but you're selling out your beliefs for money. Last time I checked, Fred Hampton didn't sit there and bitch and moan on Twitter. He actually led direct action. And according to the comments on that Twitter video, Nick doesn't even apparently attend his own protests in his own area. Like they say, like, Nick says that he's from this area, but I've never seen him at a protest. But he's all about direct action. And the second thing is, this is flat out wrong. I mean, the white moderate would be a moderate, first of all. I thought it's kind of in the name. Bernie was literally like a civil rights advocate. Like, he was on the streets advocating for like civil rights, gay rights, Medicare for all. Like, he was advocating for all these issues. He ran 2 presidential campaigns on these issues. He's organized congressional blocks to push for this issue. What have you done, Nick? You've sat there and bitched and moaned on Twitter. That's what you've done. That's what I hate about literally all of these like podcasters and like all these Twitter users. They all legitimately think, and I used to think this too because I was stupid, but granted, I have an excuse. I started the show when I was a minor. These guys are like in their 30s and 40s. They're literally like, they literally all think that they're like the leader of the vanguard. Like they're literally the one step away to stopping American fascism. And another thing that bothers me about Nick particularly, because again, he's like one of the most vocal members of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, is that he does the thing that he shouldn't be doing. Like, he did this big thing where he's like, oh yeah, Joe Biden is going to be bad, blah, 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 he's going to be worse than Trump, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, oh yeah, Joe Biden, he's not going to do the things that we say he's going to do. And then here's the thing, Joe Biden gets elected, he doesn't do the things that he said he was going to do, and now he's still complaining. This is my biggest problem. It's like, yeah, no crap, nobody expected that. Every single person on the left knew that Biden was not going to do the things that he said he was going to do. They all knew that. The ones who voted for him, the ones who didn't vote for him. Everybody knew that. The problem is, I'm the only one who is consistent. Like Chen Yeager, he's like, I voted for Joe Biden. He's not going to do the things that I want him to do. And now he's crying that Joe Biden's not doing the things that he wants him to do. SocialistMMA is like, Joe Biden, I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden, but when he gets elected, I'm still going to complain that he's not doing the things that I said he was never going to do. I said, I'm not voting for Joe Biden because I don't think he's going to do the things that I want him to do. He got elected. He's not doing the things that I want him to do. And I don't complain because I knew this was going to happen. And then they also, like, they want a crown. They want, like, people to parade them around. Like he's like, he wants people to be like, yes, we were right, SocialistMMA. We are so sorry for what we did to you. So to the point where they want to litigate things that have been happening a million years ago. Like Jimmy Dore, like he's super buddy with Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore every time he keeps getting critiqued, he's like, I was right about Russiagate. It's like, who cares? Move on. It's over. Yeah, and that also shows that he's a bad faith actor. He's positively platforming Jimmy Dore. He also kind of just doesn't know what he's talking about. Take this clip for that matter.
According to a lot of liberals, they believe if you don't get the vaccine, you shouldn't be able to buy groceries. They think you should be denied access to food. So once again, I'm asking people to be serious the argument
that's happening in other countries. That is happening in other countries.
Yeah. So my question is, I want to get Max and Jimmy's opinion on this. I'm saying if you're on the left and you support this. This means you support starving a poor family because they don't want to get a vaccine. How can you say you class conscious with that? Once again, that has nothing to do with my statement or my opinion on the vaccine. This is a left class analysis. Like, do you want everyone who don't get the vaccine? So let's take it another step further. Let's say the mandates get implemented, right? let's say you have your way, and someone refused to get the vaccine. What do you think their punishment should be? If you push them, and keep pushing them, the response will always be their death. So you're not allowed in grocery stores. So you can't feed your kids? Is that what you want for people who don't take the vaccine? But sorry, Jimmy, Max, you guys want to chime in?
For starters, I don't think I've seen any liberals say anything of the sort on that. I've heard liberals say some bad things about vaccine stuff, so I guess I can technically see where that might have happened. I saw that place Occupy Democrats. It's like, hey, we believe that retweet this tweet if you think that people who don't get the vaccine should be kicked out of their houses. And it's like, wait, what? So maybe there's some crazy liberal out there who does believe that if you don't get a vaccine, you shouldn't get groceries. But here's the thing. That's not what we have. That's not the system that currently exists in the United States. Whatever vaccine mandate we have is completely minuscule. We've been to millions of places and never had to once show anything regarding vaccinations. And this is coming from a purple state. He's in a red state. I guarantee you nobody is doing that in a red state. Our mandate, as it's been called, is essentially nothing. How can you honestly look at what happened with COVID and then think, we need less stringent things? Let's do a hypothetical. Let's take his hypothetical. Okay, so the mom decides to go to the grocery store. She doesn't want to get vaccine. No vaccine. She goes to the grocery store. Some old rancid bitch walks up to her and coughs all in her face. And then the woman goes, "Nice day to you, good woman." She goes home. The mom goes home with some groceries, and all throughout the time she's going home, she's coughing all over the groceries. She's coughing all over her hands. She's coughing everywhere. She goes up to her kids, gives them a big wet old kiss on the head, gives them baths, feeds the food that she coughed on. Now the whole house has COVID and everyone's dead. Congrats, Nick! You saved them! Here's an alternate scenario. They all three get the vaccine, and they all live happy lives. And while we're at it, they also have food stamps, and have everything, and have other commodities that can help them. Maybe we have a UBI and a Medicare for All system, so that if they do get COVID, they will have the ability to help themselves and also not be financially bankrupt. Because that's what the left wants. The left wants a vaccine mandate, but also wants to do all this other stuff that would help. And I know one of the big things that a lot of other, of these commie guys, they always say this, but other countries don't need vaccine mandates, like Denmark or Cuba, and it's like, wow, these countries that have very extreme, education systems that extremely look into healthcare and other diseases, these countries that literally have socialized education, where people are fully educated and not everybody's a complete fucking moron, these countries actually want to get the vaccine and don't have to be forced to do it, huh? That's the same argument against, the minimum wage that conservatives use. Oh, Denmark doesn't need a minimum wage. It's yes, because they have massive union support that advocate for high-paying wages to the point where they don't need to mandate that. It's like saying, oh, the Soviet Union doesn't have welfare. It's yeah, but don't they, literally just give you money or, food or something that helps you live? Oh, in their places, they don't have house-selling companies, so they must all be homeless. Or they all have a home. It's that apartment. It's that crappy, Soviet-looking apartment place, but it's the home. They have a roof over their head and heat. But no, they're bad. They're bad. Why? They are. Now, here's one of the weirdest things. The thing is, Socialist MMA, technically, this is the weird thing that always seems to bug me. I always seem to do the things that they claim they want, but then they don't appreciate. But the thing is, I'm a swing state Howie Hawkins voter. Socialist MMA, he voted for whoever, I don't know, I guess he voted for Howie. Maybe he voted for Gloria LaRiva if she was on the ballot in Missouri. But he didn't vote for Joe Biden in a safe state. I voted for a third-party candidate in a swing state. But apparently I'm still the shit lib because I don't agree with their premise of whatever. And I think one of the biggest things it shows just how different me and them are. Is like, this is an argument that he had, like, this is a debate he had with Vosh during the election of 2020. These are some things you need to keep in mind. One, and technically, I am on SocialistMMA's side in this argument, because he argues against voting for Joe Biden. And another thing is, this is literally almost 4 minutes in, like exactly 3 minutes and 43 seconds in, and this is how the conversation goes.
So you don't have any leverage to play off of right now. You've already demonstrated.
Hey, we voted for Obama twice. Mm-hmm. Obama moved to the right compared to how he campaigned. Yeah. So when I'm asking you to explain.
Are you saying John McCain? Wait, are you saying that John McCain and Mitt Romney would have been better for America during those time periods?
Did I say that?
Huh?
Did I say that?
Oh, so wait. So you agree that Obama was the better choice?
Are you going to let me talk? So your claim was, if you don't vote for them, they're going to move to the right. We voted for Obama twice, and he still moved to the right compared to how he campaigned. So your argument is incoherent.
I said the DNC would move to the right. That's not a counter argument. He could just wait. Hold on. You need to chill out for a second. So
they won't move to the. I'll show you an example how they move to the right even when we vote for them.
Wait.
So your plan is to vote for them.
Wait.
Right?
Can you hear me?
Joe Biden still supports the Patriot Act, right?
Wait, can you hear me?
He's in favor of supporting police budgets. See, when I say I'm part of Black Lives Matter, and when I was in part of the protest, I'm not saying you didn't, because I don't know what you do. When I say I advocate for defund the police, I fucking mean it.
Wait, you're not going to put a cop. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The thing is, Vosh literally stated that he had to restart the conversation, essentially. Like, he essentially had to go to he said basically at one point he had to restart the conversation, because that was basically the entire conversation for at least half of the hour. He literally had to go okay, stop. How was your day today, Nick? And then Nick was like, oh, I'm doing good. And then explained some of his day, and then they restarted and had a nicer conversation. And that was one of the biggest problems of being me. Every time there was a debate about whether or not we should vote for Joe Biden, the person that they would always bring on would always bring the dumbest arguments, would be the most unhinged people to talk to. And the thing is, their arguments wouldn't get destroyed. It was just who they were. It doesn't matter. If I went on a debate channel and was like, do you believe that gay people should be legally allowed to marry? And I just went around going and nobody would take my argument seriously. And then as such, it would make my argument seem less more stupid. That's always been what divides me from the rest of these people. I always hold the standard of truth. When truth doesn't align with what they believe, it doesn't turn out well. Could you imagine if I stuck down this route? I would be making a ton of money, and I'd be getting on all these shows. But I have more principles than that. Even though I was praised for a long time, but oh, your coverage of the Green Party presidential primary is above all the others. All of a sudden, that goes away because I just don't follow into the route of we need to nominate Jesse Ventura for 2020. Oh, all of a sudden, me saying that I voted for Howie Hawkins doesn't matter because I happen to also believe that the squad is not the next step in fascism, apparently. That's why I'm in no internet clique, because no one loves me. Anyways, that's essentially all I have to say about the Revolutionary Blackout Network. On paper, the idea is fine, but the execution has obviously not been. And I have a feeling that the Fred Hampton Leftists are going to be watching this, so I'm just going to have to say this now. I'm not white, I'm not a liberal, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a G-Hive, I'm not boutique left, so you're going to have to figure out a new label. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when a future video comes out. And if you want some more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, check out my articles in the Independent Political Report, or consider supporting me on Patreon.